In this video, we'll discuss the goals of lighting, the different types of lights and their purposes, and then add some light to our world. The goals of lighting include illumination, modeling, focus, and a tool to create a visual style. Let's talk a bit more about the first three goals. Without illumination, we'd not be able to see anything in our game world. With illumination, we're able to see that there are game objects within our scene, but illumination alone often is not enough. With the proper type of lighting, we can use lights for modeling. That is, we can reveal the structural and dimensional qualities of our game objects. We can also use lights to reveal spatial relationships between models and help establish the time of day. And lastly, with lights we can create contrast within the scene. That is, create areas of dark and light. This can be used to help direct and focus the player's attention. This table summarizes the types of basic lights we have in Unity and their primary purpose. You can see ambient light. The primary purpose is for illumination. There's directional light, which is much like sunlight. It's rays of lights from a very far distance away. Of course, this could be used for illumination and modeling. We can use it to establish, for example, the time of day, depending on the direction of that directional light. And then there's point lights. Point lights are pretty much like a light bulb in the environment. Of course, they can create illumination as well as modeling. They could be used perhaps to establish things that are, close to the light versus things that are farther away from the light. Of course, they would be darker if they're farther away. And then there's a spotlight. A spotlight is like a flashlight, shine from a certain point in space outward in a certain direction. This is a great way to both create modeling and focus. Much like in a theatrical performance, we put a spotlight on the main actors performing at that one time. There are a few things to realize with real-time lights in game engines such as Unity. The first off is that lights have no geometry. We see the result of the light, but we don't see the light itself. If you want to see a light, you'd have to have a 3D model of the light and then put the real-time light inside of it to essentially turn it on. Lights are also very processor intensive. The more lights that we have, the more it will slow down the performance of our games. So we have to be frugal in the number of lights that we actually use within our games, and often maybe use tricks to create the lighting effects that we want. With lights, there are also a lot of special effects that we can do. We can create shadows. We can create other sort of visual effects. These are also processor intensive, so we also need to be judicious in how we use these special effects. Our objective in this video will be to add some ambient lights to our solar system to increase the light everywhere, and then add a light within the sun so it looks like it's emitting light out toward the planets. Okay, we're going to adjust the lighting in our scene. As you can see, we've got the sun, and it looks like it's emitting light, but it really is not emitting light. It's just a visual effect. The emission material, the emission property of the material, lights it up, lights the game object itself up, but it doesn't, make light on the Earth or on the moon. And everything is just really dark. So the first thing that we want to do is just add some ambient light to our world. The same place that we set the skybox under window lighting is where we can play with the ambient light in the world. So here you can see it has an ambient source set at skybox. Let me go ahead and change this to color. And now the ambient color you can see is black and the ambient intensity is 1. Let me go ahead and click the color. It'll bring up the color selection tool. And I can select different colors, and as I'm moving around, you can kind of notice that the entire scene gets brighter as I use brighter colors and takes on the color tonality of whatever color that I'm got selected. So for sake of example, let me go all the way to the right-hand side and kind of pick a medium gray color. So we've got a little bit more ambient light, just kind of lights everything in the world. If I hit play now, we can actually see the Earth and see the moon. But once again, our sun is not, putting light out into the world. So we can't get the, the light side and the dark side of the moon yet. So let's go ahead and create a light in our world. We can create lights in a number of different ways, but just like we created the spheres in the beginning, we can go up to Game Object, Light, and you can see all the different types of lights that we talked about and a few other more advanced lighting options. We're going to create a point light because really the sun is kind of like a light bulb that's shining out in all directions from a single location. So let's go ahead and create that point light. Lights are just like any other game object in that they exist in the world and they've got to transform, but they aren't visible themselves. You just see the result of the light. So just like the camera, we get a little gizmo here to reflect that there is a light in the scene. If I go to the top-down view, you can see as I move this light around, bring it closer, to the moon and the Earth, we can kind of see the results of that light. I'm going to go ahead and rename this Sunlight. And really, this is going to be inside of the sun, putting light out into the world. So it probably makes the most sense for it to be a child of the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it right on the sun. You can see its location is 1 meter, off of the origin. Of course, the sun is at 0, 0, 0. So I really want to make this at 0, 0, 0. So it's right inside of the sun. So we've got the sun as a child, so or the sunlight as a child. So if we ever move the sun, the light will come with it, of course. I'll go ahead and undo to snap it back to the origin. We've got it positioned right there in the middle of the sun. The next thing we need to do is maybe play a little bit with some of the lighting properties of the light component. So you can see this game object really is just a regular game object that has a light component. So in essence, we could actually just add a light component right to the sun game object if we wanted to. But for purpose of example, we'll keep it as a separate game object as a child of the sun. So one of the things that we could do is we can adjust the range. So the range right now is 10, which basically means 10 meters. If I zoom out in my scene, it actually kind of visually represents the range that light is casting. So if I bring the range down, you can see it's coming down. And if I go real small, it no longer hits the Earth. If I go larger, you can see in the game view that we actually kind of see the effect of the light hitting the moon and hitting the sun. The other thing we can do with light is we can change the color. So right now it's just a white light. If I click on this and let's say I want to make it kind of a yellow color, you can see the result of the light. It's fairly subtle, but you can see the results of that. If I go red, it's maybe a little more severe. You can see that it's a red light. I'm going to go ahead and kind of keep it as a white light for now. One other option that we can do is we can actually draw a halo. So if I check the halo option, you can actually see there's a halo effect created here. I think my camera is too close right now to actually see it in the game scene. So if I go back and move my camera away, you can see now that there's sort of that halo effect around the sun. If I play, we can kind of see the Earth kind of going in and out of that halo. That may or may not be the effect that we want, but it's kind of a fun little effect, so I just wanted to demo that to you. Let me undo to move my camera back to its location, and I'll go ahead and keep that halo off. But that's something that you could always play with. Now we have a little bit of lighting in our world, and if we hit play, you can see as the Earth moves around, we're kind of seeing the dark side as it comes around. But on the other side, the sun is actually emitting light and lighting up as those surfaces face that point light. So what's next? We've been focusing on the visuals. In the next video, we'll focus on the auditory experience in our project.